All right, people of Twitchland, welcome. Hello, how's it going? Westbound, hi. Thank you for the follow. And formerly known as Chris, thank you for the follow. And JP Edwards, thank you for the follow. Slupaton, hi, it's good to see you. Oh, and also JulieGoLive, thank you for the follow. Star Knuckle, hi. It's good to see everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm Abbers. I play video games sometimes. I also record a podcast here on Twitch sometimes called Why We Go Live. And it is where I interview other streamers about streaming. Today we have a wonderful guest. I'm very excited. I've been an admirer from afar for a while. So let's watch a little clip to get to know them a little bit more here.
I woke up and I took a piss. Then the cereal bowl I kissed. And then I got out of bed. I made a mess again. It's every day with this shit, I swear. If only it was free, all of this healthcare. It's a lie. It's a goddamn lie. The government is full of spies. I said I quit my job. Apparently it's not cool to lick doorknobs. I couldn't make eye contact with customers. It's important to make that connection with others. I shit and I fart. Mom come pick me up, I lost my Pokemon cards. Nobody's real, this is a simulation. My only kink is self-deprecation. I shit and I fart. Go on and take my organs, they're all just spare parts. Nothing is real, this is a simulation. Your only kink is sonic inflation. I woke up and I...
Guys, welcome, Julie Go Live. How's it going?
What's poppin', gamers?
What's poppin', gamers?
I'm doing dandy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's gonna be fun. Well, let's just start with when you first started on Twitch. Do you remember your first Twitch stream?
I do. It was I was one of the pandemic babies for this platform, you know.
Same.
I was planning on being a musician, obviously. I was in college for it. And then all of my events got like canceled for the entire like summer. And it was like, well, I could do many things, but I had watched a bunch of my favorite artists go live on just Instagram or something. I was like, that's all right. I tried it a couple times, wasn't really my thing. But I had been watching Games Done Quick for a good long time on Twitch.
Yeah.
So I saw that. I went, ooh, maybe there are musicians on here, maybe. And I found a few, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I just haven't stopped since.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. I had a friend, I feel this special kinship with you because I went to music school. I'm a music school dropout. But this was like 10 years ago.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And I had a friend at that time, she would live broadcast her just like in the practice rooms playing scales and like random like sonatas and things on piano on Justin TV. And like, I remember at that time being like, oh, that's so weird. And like, kind of like lurking or whatever. And then it switched over to Twitch. But it's one of those things that's like, it's really cool to see how musicians have found a platform on Twitch and how much that's like grown and changed over the last few years.
Yeah, it's been absolutely wild. I mean, I think I caught the train right before it blew up, which was very cool.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to get in right before everybody started getting excited about it.
Okay.
Which was very lucky of me.
Nice.
Like maybe like 2 months before everything got huge. So it was very exciting right off the bat. And when I started, it was a very small community too. So it was like I could come in, I could meet people, I could ask questions, and I kind of already understood the scene pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then it just started to take off, and I was like, okay, I'm out of my depth, but at least I feel somewhat comfortable with the community here. It was nice.
Awesome. Love that. What was your first stream? What did you do?
It was just like a little like virtual concert because I didn't really know how else to do a stream because I didn't really have anything else to do. So I was like, okay, my show got canceled for this week. Let's just do it online instead. And like, I advertised it with a bunch of stock images of random animals sitting on instruments, and like 3 or 4 people showed up, and it was so exciting because like I met 1 or 2 people that I had never met before that didn't know me, and I was like, what just talk to these people. Like usually when you do a live show in person and people don't know you, they just sit, they watch, and then they leave. And if they're really, really, really excited, they might come up and say hi, but that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas with Twitch, it's like, oh, you can just have a conversation and it's not scary. It's not intimidating. I have crippling social anxiety, so that's terrifying. So it's just, it eliminates all of those factors. And I was like, this is just like doing live shows, but better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
so nice to not have to like, I don't know. I mean, there's something really like fun and charming and real and visceral about like playing dive bars or whatever. But there's something like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, very empowering about like being able to like do it all in your own space and like really be boundaried in whatever way feels comfortable. Like, I love that. I think that
Yeah.
the few times I've played music on stream, the weirdest thing for me was reacting to chat rather than like waiting for like an audio like people clapping or like cheering. You know what I mean? Like that always feels very awkward to me. Are there like, I don't know, disconnects like that for you with playing on Twitch rather than playing in real life?
Oh, yeah. Like, I think with playing online, I moved away from the virtual concert style very quickly because I realized that the timing between finishing a song and actually doing another song is very awkward.
Yeah.
So instead I've formatted it to be a little more casual whenever I try to do music from now on. It's very like it's 50-50 on my channel now if I'm going to do music or I'm just going to be a goblin. But when I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to do music, it's like I'll do a song and then I'll have a conversation for a little bit. And then when the topic ends or it dies down a little bit or I run out of things to say, well, I can just sit there and scream and pitch for a little bit. And that'll, it's just sort of like a nice way to stop myself from running out of things to talk about. Gives myself some time to think about things to talk about, but it's more of like an in-between thing than a full, I'm going to be playing song after song after song after song
Totally.
thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What did you study in music school?
I started out as a violinist, but
Oh,
I
wow.
messed up my hands when I first started. Like first year, like first week of being in new city for college, they were like, maybe don't use your hands for your job. And I was like, well, died. That's all I know. So I had to switch into classical voice. I had to audition for that, having no experience in it whatsoever, which was terrifying. But I became a classical voice and composition major, and I almost graduated, but then I didn't.
Hey, same. Well, I mean, not the same major,
Yeah,
but very similar. I dropped out after my junior year, so it was one of those things that like eventually I got my bachelor's and like put all these credits towards something different, not music, but it's
fair,
funny.
fair.
I think it's a very common story though. People will go to music school for a really long time and then there's something that just like shifts for whatever reason and you're not able to complete it. What was that for you?
Well, for me, it was like I started doing Twitch in my like second year of university, and I wasn't comfortable with singing very much at all, but I was like, it's what I can do on Twitch and not feel awkward about. I couldn't play violin anymore, so it's not like I could do that as an option. And I was trying to get used to just performing more, and I things really got really good on Twitch to the point where I could move out of a housing situation I wasn't super happy with. I could pay my tuition without worrying too much about student loans, which was kind of unheard of for me and my family. And like I could live sort of a lifestyle that I didn't think I could, and it could be supported fully online, which was very nice for me as someone once again with crippling social anxiety. It kind of felt like the dream. And I realized that getting a degree in classical composition doesn't open any doors in any way, including in classical composition. Nobody cares if you got a degree to do a score for a movie.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I continued on and I did like my 4 years. But my fourth year, I was like, let me just do the things that are fun and useful to me. I'm not going to do any extra credits. I'm not going to do anything fun. And if I decide I want to keep going, then I can keep going. But let's keep this casual so I can focus on what I care about, which was streaming.
Yeah.
And the semester started, and I already was like, I don't want to be here. I'm out of this. But I finished up the year, and then I said, yep, nope, I think I'm good now. I think for now, I'll take a break. And it's only been like a year since then. So I might go back, I might not, but I don't
Yeah.
think I'll be finishing a degree in classical composition.
That's fair. Saxophone performance music business. gets you nothing, right?
Yo,
Yeah.
okay, music business is actually like at least there's like classes that are helpful,
Oh,
you know?
totally. Like I learned a lot, especially like music business law classes in terms of reading contracts. Like
Ooh.
I feel like that's been super helpful, especially with streaming, right? Well, and even like saxophone performance, like I got really good at saxophone, but like like you said, no one's like looking for that piece of paper to be like, ah, you were a saxophone
Hmm.
major,
They want
come
to hear
play in
you.
this jazz quartet, right? It just doesn't work that way, you know?
Hmm. No, I totally agree. I wish that there would have been more opportunity for something non-classical in my school, but
Fair,
it was
yeah.
either you did classical music or you did sonic arts. So you just did like
Oh,
weird
okay.
experimental computer noises. And I
I
was
mean,
too
that's
scared
kind
of
of cool.
computers to. I did a few classes on it. It was really fun, but
Yeah.
very not useful, more so than the things I was already learning. So I was like,
Fair. Yeah.
can't
That
really
makes
justify
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's the story behind your screen name?
Oh, well, if we're being completely honest here,
Uh-huh.
um, Julie Olive Music was taken on Instagram when I was a kid, and I
Hmm.
was like, I want to be a musician, but someone took it. There was another person named Julie Olive as well who was already established in music, and I was like, shit. Okay, I gotta do something else. Let's just put the middle initial, say screw it. And that was just my Instagram handle for forever. And then I started Twitch and I was like, I don't have very many good options here. This one sounds obnoxious. Let's do the obnoxious one
Yeah.
because it just sounded funny. So it's actually just my name, but you know, just no spaces means people go live instead of G Olive. And it's like perfect.
Yeah. It
That makes it
works
a
really
little
well.
more comfortable for me too. I don't it feels weird for people to say my full name on the internet. So
Totally. Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out. Like, I mean, it's kind of the perfect moniker for Twitch, I feel like. That's cool. That's cool that it is your full name and like it's just a funny little coincidence to me.
yeah, yeah, it worked out very well, although every now and then I get the sudden urge to switch it very quickly because I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just my name. It's so scary. But then it's also
Yeah.
like, but it works really well. And as long as I don't like advertise that that's my full name all the time, it's like whatever. But also,
Yeah.
now that I'm going to be putting out music, instead of going under Julie Go Live, I'm just going to do it under Julie G Olive. And then if you look it up, either one will show up,
Yeah.
but they'll be separate, which will be
Yeah.
nice.
That is cool. That's interesting. Well, and it gets into this kind of conversation of like, I don't know, your public persona or your online persona versus your musician persona versus just you the person. Like, where do all of those kind of things meet and where's that line for you?
I mean, I think that the thing that's similar about me online and in person and in my work is that it's just all very honest. I don't like to put on an act. I can't act for shit, so I don't try. And I don't think before I speak and stuff like that. That's all very similar. It's just sort of the level of um willingness I'm able to like act on impulses. That's very much like a, oh, I can do that online. It's like there's nothing crazy. It's a controlled space for the most part. So
Mhm.
I can pull that crap off and it'll be fun. Plus for content, it's good to act on impulses, I've
Yeah,
found. So
totally.
whereas with music, I focus a little bit more on, I have comedic music, which kind of focuses more on my stream persona and stuff. But the stuff that I've been working on now, it's a lot more focused on mental health and making sure that I'm honest about things that people struggle about and putting words to things that are very complex in my brain and trying to make them make sense to me, which also makes them make sense to other people. Plus just being able to scream and be upset.
Yeah.
And then my real life, it's just the same thing, but whenever I leave the house or see other people that I don't trust 100%, I'm just in NPC mode. I'm a very basic person, which makes having hair like this very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think about that. I dyed it and now I like it. And I'm like, now I just put it up when I leave the house, basically.
Fair. Yeah, it is interesting because it's like, I don't know. I've been dyeing my hair for years and like, I don't know. I see it as harm reduction personally, is like in these moments where I feel like I need to do something extreme. There's something like about like like having something like my hair that I can just like change and it doesn't really
Yeah.
have a consequence. But like you said, you leave the house, you like ride the bus or whatever, and the way that people look at you, you're like, oh yeah, I have bright red hair, whatever, you know. It's
Yeah,
funny.
it like grabs a little more attention than I would prefer,
Mm-hmm.
but I also am like, I'm doing it for me, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the end of the world.
Well, luckily, it's more and more common all the time, and I think especially too in quarantine, I think a lot of people were like, "Fuck it, I'm dyeing my hair." Like it's why not? You know, it's kind of this time where people
Yeah.
were actually able to lean into things like that and like be themselves a little bit more because we don't really have time and space to do that otherwise.
Exactly. I started like I dyed my hair a bunch as like an emo kid,
Mm-hmm.
and then quarantine hit and I went, "Oh, I can do interesting things with my hair again. Let's mess it up. Let's mess it up. Let's mess it up." And that was the first time I used like bleach on my own hair and stuff like that. Made a lot of mistakes, sure, but like none of my hair fell out, fell out. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
took a break after like quarantine had sort of started dying down and I went back to normie hair. And then suddenly recently I've had the urge to change everything about myself once again, as it does like,
Yeah.
once every quarter or so. So I did it. And now I'm like, okay, I'll stick with this for a bit. Hopefully
Sure.
it'll work out.
Yeah. And if not, you can change it again, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no biggie. And I mean, I wear wigs too. So it's like if I don't like how my hair looks or I mess it up real bad, I got wigs. They're fine. It's
Yeah.
cool. I can wear a hat. I don't really give that much of a rat's patootie. Doesn't really
Yeah.
have that much to do with my identity right now, at
Fair.
least.
Yeah. What was it like when you started out streaming and like kind of when you got affiliate eventually? Like what was that journey like for you?
It was really quick, which felt weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, it was this like part of streaming that was just exploding overnight because
Yeah.
nobody could see live shows. They all were like, "Oh, okay, well, we could go to Instagram for it, but it's not a great place for live streaming. That's like a place where celebrities do their makeup for the most part. Not really a great place to watch a bunch of live shows." So then people found out about Twitch and they flocked there, and it was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going from like having like 4 people per stream in the course of a month, it was like up to like 15 or 20." And I was like,
Wow.
that's terrifying. That's a lot of people to
Yeah.
just have there. And it was very quick and I had no idea what I was doing at all. So I had one friend, Existence 130, bless her heart, who was a well-established music streamer, and she helped me with pretty much everything. And every night after stream, I would, go through how it happened, all my analytics, and then I'd look and see what other successful music streamers are doing and steal little parts of like their overlay or stuff like that just to try to keep up. It was
Yeah.
stressful, but it was very, very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and then from there, you got partner. Was it last year? When did you get partner?
Yeah, it was about this time last year.
Okay, awesome. And what was that like? I know a lot of people talk about this idea of like the partner push. Like, did you experience that as well?
Oh, entirely. It was before I started, getting close to partner. What happened was like about a year prior to actually getting partner, I Twitch was like, "Hey, what's poppin'? You want to be on the front page?" And I was like, "Sure. That sounds like an opportunity that couldn't go wrong." And they were like, "Yeah, we'll just put you back in the carousel. Don't worry. Like it's not super high stress." No, they put me in the front for an hour on a Saturday evening. It was nightmare shit.
Wow.
I yeah, I had like I had my mods and then I had like 2 or 3 other music streamers I knew and I stole their mods too. And we all just like were like, "Okay, just let's make a set list and just go for it." And from then on it was like, "Oh, okay, I have to be doing music now to retain this viewership."
Mm.
So the stream right after it, I was doing like trying weird foods that I've never tried before. His viewership was nothing, and I was like, "Oh, I ruined it. I
Yeah.
ruined it
Oh, that's
because I
so
didn't know
hard.
better."
Yeah.
And so from then on, it was me trying to get back to the point where I could hit partner, and because I could apply, but they wouldn't let me actually do it unless I kept the numbers up. And I was like, totally fair.
Yeah.
So it was constantly this push of being like, I want to do something other than music because it's kind of driving me insane to just sit here and be a radio station, essentially.
Sure.
I really don't love doing that all the time. And actually being able to do what I want and experiment on the channel. So it was for a while there, I was like, I don't need partner. I'll just mess around and have a good time.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, I kind of want to go to TwitchCon. I kind of want to meet these people. And I kind of want to have like some of the resources that the partners have. And it's like, it's kind of close. So then I did the whole partner push where I just basically did music 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it worked. I was also streaming on Reddit at the time, which helped a ton.
Okay.
But Reddit live streaming died, rip RPAN. And some of the viewership left at the same time, but that was
Yeah.
after I hit partner. So it was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I got the stupid purple badge. I got the resources. I guess I don't care too much if it sticks entirely. But it's
Totally.
been, I think everybody's viewership and everything has been down for like the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at least, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's very natural from the various people that I've talked to that have partner. It sounds like that's like very normal, is that you like really like intentionally do what keeps your followers for this period of time until you get partnership. And then afterwards, there's this kind of like, and everyone in your community too is kind of like, okay, so your viewership just plummets because like there's this knowledge that you got the purple check mark, and everyone's like, cool, you did it. And then like, there's this kind of, I don't know, this idea that we don't need to support you as like avidly anymore, or like I don't know, that sounds bad, but I think it's like,
No.
I think it's very normal that people would kind of like, that viewership would drop after you get partner. I think there's this thing of like,
Yeah.
people being very intentional about like, oh, I'm going to open a tab while they're at work or whatever, and then like not worrying about doing that as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm totally cool with that. Like I don't ever expect people to tune in. I don't expect people to owe me anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's more so of like you know, right after partner push, the one place that I had discoverability outside of Twitch died.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because
That's
like
rough.
Reddit live streams were insane for viewership.
I
Like,
genuinely, I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest with
well,
you.
do you know about like the Office drummer?
No.
Oh, well, there's like this whole like subset of like music streamers on Twitch here that are really, really successful. And they started or gained their viewership on our pan. And it's because they would have, it was basically a television channel.
Okay.
And they would switch the channel at the top of every hour. And if you could get a spot at the front of the channel,
Oh.
you would have all of the front page of Reddit looking at you and watching you do your thing.
Wow.
So there was like a camera on the bottom of an airplane. There was a couple cute kitten streams, and then there was a ton of music streamers. And I managed to get a late night spot at the front page, so there was just hectic nightmare stuff for like between an hour and 3 hours whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
So it really helped with viewership, but then it died, and I was like, oh, I don't. I'll try to get you guys over here, but I can't force you to come over to a different platform. So
yeah.
you know,
That's hard.
it helped for a bit, but you know, I was like, okay, I need something to fill this void, and
Totally.
I'm working on it still. I was like, I'll make an album.
Mm-hmm.
Albums don't make things happen right away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's my viewership has just been sort of slowly dying down because I don't have any discoverability elsewhere right now.
Yeah.
But it's gonna change soon.
Definitely. I think it's like, I don't know, one of the like cool things and also the terrifying things about this kind of world that we're existing in and making content in is that it's constantly changing. It's constantly in flux, right? And so that means that there's a lot of opportunity out there. And it also means that there's a lot of like opportunity for like missteps too that like are not even necessarily your fault. You made me think about like, you know, a lot of people are wanting to jump ship from Twitch right now for a myriad of reasons to YouTube. And it still doesn't feel super viable, but also like, I don't know, there's a lot of risk in that. There's also a lot of like potential to get paid more, but to actually get your viewership to move to a different platform, like you said, like that's a pretty monumental undertaking that I think, I don't know. I don't know how feasible it is for anyone. What is your take on that, being on YouTube and TikTok and Twitch, and then having had like success on Reddit? Like, what is it like managing these different platforms?
I think the big thing is that you don't get to guarantee, unless you're a huge person on any one of these platforms, you can't guarantee anybody is going to care about the other platform. Like, you know, big streamers can jump to YouTube and they got their diehard fans, thousands of them that'll flock there, and that's like cool, good for them. But for people like me who don't have a big viewership, I just have like a comfortable, good size, you know, it's not viable. I wouldn't guarantee a single person would. So it's sort of less of a I'm going to jump ship to the next thing, whereas I'm going to make content for this thing, steal the content I'm using on Twitch, retransform it, pop it onto a different platform, and if people like it, then they can come to Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of pulling other people to the platform, or if they really like the stuff happening on there, building up that viewership separately, because can't guarantee anybody's gonna hop from one platform to another, especially with live streaming, because it's a long form thing, you know?
Yeah.
Most people don't have the patience for that anymore.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I think you make a good point. It's like treating each platform like its own and not necessarily relying on people to jump from one to the other so much as like recognizing that there will be some people on Twitch and there will be some people on YouTube, and it's okay if those kind of streams don't cross, you know?
Yeah, and like one thing that you can do is you can make your content on each platform interact with each other. So you can say like, oh, I asked my Twitch chat to do this thing and then I made a video about it or something like that. And you can do stuff like that to help people want to bridge that gap, but it's never going to make every single person go, oh, I, I need to be there then. It's mostly people who are like, I like the edited version.
Yeah.
I like the little, you know, my little like my ADHD brain doesn't watch a ton of streams either. I get it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. What were your streams like? I mean, it sounds like you started out pure music. What has kind of changed over time? What are your streams like now?
I found that just plain old music, as much as it was really easy to do because I could just turn off my brain, put literally the chords and lyrics on screen. I didn't have to memorize crap, and I could just play songs, and it was super easy, but it also was very not rewarding because
Yeah.
of how easy it was. And I'm not a gamer. I'm sorry. I can't. I am poor at gaming. I have no coordination, and it frustrates me. So I don't play
Well,
games
okay,
very
wait,
often.
hold on. How can you be a musician? Don't get me wrong. Don't be a gamer. It's okay not to be a gamer. But you can't say you don't have coordination when you're able to do like loop pedals and play guitar and play piano. Like you have
I guess, but
coordination.
I think for me, whenever I get a controller in my hand or I have a crosshair on the screen, I get very overwhelmed very quickly.
That's fair.
I struggle under pressure
Yeah.
entirely. Anything that requires any sort of pressure, I can't I can't handle it usually for more than like an hour, basically. So doing game streams for more than an hour doesn't really work for me. You know, I enjoy like Minecraft and stuff, but that's very chill, and I don't usually stream it because it's very chill. So I slowly was realizing that there's things on Twitch that aren't games and aren't music. And I started going on some other people's shows like Capri Sun Pappy and Rossi and a couple other things. And I watched a lot of like the Austin show and stuff. So I knew about sort of the talk show area of stream. And from those places, I found a bunch of other people who didn't want to conform to one specific category. And I was like, okay, well, I can take a look at them and see what they're doing. And they're just doing random bullshit, just the weirdest crap you can think of. And I was like, oh, I can act on my impulses and people will support that. Okay. So I would do like donor goals for something that's really, really stupid. I'd be like, this is going towards like a tech upgrade, but if we hit it, I'll do a hot tub stream. And everybody's like, ooh, hot tub stream. Yeah. And so I'd fill up an inflatable pool in my backyard, fill it with freezing cold water. And every time someone gifted subs, I would put on more clothing and I'd just sit in it and do that. And I realized that was like my kind of comedy too. And I really enjoyed it was very rewarding to find myself funny. So I kept on like looking for little bites of something like that I find funny. I find really, really silly to do. The clips are stupid as hell and it's not music, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still fight for that.
No, that makes sense. What are some of the similarities and differences between comedy and music for you?
Both are very like timing based, so you have to kind of know how to have rhythm with either one of them. However, I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm not very good with words. Just like with music, I'm not very good with words with it. It takes me a good long time to get some good lyrics. So a lot of it has to be very physical for me because I can't say what's in my brain very tactfully usually. So, you know, I think it's a lot more of the physical ability, which I mean, I didn't start as a singer either. I was an instrumentalist. So it feels very similar in that way. But I mean, one, I kind of try to take a little bit seriously because I'm working towards having like a legit sort of professional career outside of streaming in music, you know? So that I'm taking somewhat seriously, whereas the other one is like, how far can I push this into absurd without crossing any lines or like hurting anybody or anything like that, but just finding that line and just being there is
Yeah.
so fun to experiment with. You know, like the other day I dressed up as Ronald McDonald, but I didn't have any equipment to do it. So I was like, all I have is hoe clothing. Let me dress up as a cursed hoe version of
You
Ronald
looked
McDonald.
amazing, by the way.
That shit was disgusting to wear.
Was it?
But yeah, and I didn't have any plans of doing that day. I wanted to do a music stream. My stream crashed. I got upset. So I was like, whatever. I'll just put on face paint. It'll be content, okay? So it's very spontaneous compared to music, which takes practice and effort. It's like kind of the more meme stuff. It's like just sort of, I don't plan it ever, usually.
Yeah. Well, there's something very liberating about that, I imagine. There's something very like freeing about being able to do something that doesn't require a lot of practice. I don't want to say like it doesn't require intention, because I think there is intention there, but also, like you said, to be able to do it off the cuff, like there's something really cool about that. And I think like being a music school kid, there's something like, I don't know, there's this kind of expectation of being very calculated and being very like methodical, and so to be able to not do that, I think is really lovely. Like there's something very cool about that.
Yeah, I think you know, when I first started planning on going to music school, and my expectations for everything was that I'd be a classical musician. I'd be getting my ass handed to me whiplash style every single day and just being humbled mentally
Man,
all the time.
That movie is so real and so rough.
Yeah. And I was like, and you don't get me wrong, there were times where it felt like that, and it was a lot of that, but especially when I had to go into vocals, it was so much more of a mental thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with all the other ones, it was get your physical ability up, get your physical ability up. If you don't have your physical ability, you can't do it. Whereas with vocals, it's like they didn't really care if you were good or not. They cared if you were willing to embarrass yourself multiple times a day. And so I got really used to just like failing publicly and being what I would consider not good and making ugly sounds publicly in front of other people. And like it really forced me to get in sort of that improv vibe without taking a lick of it comedically.
Yeah.
It was all just, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna be sad about my performances, and I'm gonna get humbled a lot. And I think that translated really well.
Yeah, I imagine that that's like been something you've been able to take and has been really instrumental in helping you on Twitch.
If I had an ounce of shame, I would not be doing anything that I do. But it's sort of like I took myself so seriously before doing, you know, Twitch, and I would consider myself a humorous person, but I wasn't necessarily the funniest person in the room or anything. Still don't think I am, but at least now I'm not afraid of doing the dumb cringy crap that comes to my brain that other people are like, I would think of that, but I would never do it. It's like, yeah. Let me fill that void.
Totally. It sounds like for the most part that's like super rewarding. Are there's moments where it's like, uh-oh, like this actually didn't feel good. I didn't like the way that this turned out.
Not too, I mean, I don't have shame. So
no,
for me, it's like,
love that.
If I don't feel shame about something, it's like, and especially since it's live streams, if I don't like something, it's a live stream. Nobody watches the VODs. Nobody watches my VODs, at least. So it's like, I don't really care if something seems awkward or bad in the moment. It's very temporary. And if I wanted to make extra content out of it, I can edit it out, you know? So it's like you can get that real authentic experience if you're there, if you're sitting in the audience and you see that. But if you're trying to get a wider audience, you can just cut it up a little bit. You know?
Yeah, totally. What kind of people tend to find your streams?
I think for the most part, it's a lot of people who are online a lot or not the most social butterflies. Kind of find my place and go, oh, this is a place where you can sort of be a goblin and be a little silly and not have to worry about too much, you know? It's mostly, most of my audience came for the music. But a lot of them didn't stay because I started changing stuff up a little too hard. But the people who did stay are the people who are looking for like a community where, you know, you can just be silly. You can just see how far you can push a bit without, you know, being too crazy with it. But you know, just experimenting and doing weird crap and being funny, being witty, and getting used to just social interaction in a very weird, different way.
Yeah, definitely. Are there certain like takeaways or first impressions that you hope people get from your stream?
Um, I guess just like I like to be honest. I don't want people to think that what I'm doing is an act ever,
Mm,
because it's not. I don't try to be parasocial with it or anything. I avoid that like the plague, but I do try to be authentic with what I do. So I don't want people to come in and think I'm being fake or anything like that. Even if it's a bit. A bit is
mm-hmm.
different because that's just playing a meme basically. But that's the big thing is I want people to think that this is just exactly how things are. If I could just turn off all my filters and turn on a camera, that's basically just how things are.
Yeah.
And I want that community to be open with being honest too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've talked quite a bit about, your mental health and kind of how that comes into play with streaming. What are some other aspects of your identity or your culture or like just your background, your upbringing that come into play with your streaming?
I grew up in a very small town in the middle of nowhere in Canada. So being kind of a dumbass kid definitely inspires everything in the way that, I don't really know a lot about America. I don't really know a lot about other places, but I'm open to it and I love learning about it, but it's sort of people get to show me what is important to them and
Mm,
brought them up. So learning about other people's lives and cultures is very very exciting to me because it's kind of like the first time I'm seeing it, which is a little absurd when you see someone who has like an American accent.
yeah.
So it's very exciting to do stuff like that, but I think just having a very strict upbringing too. It wasn't crazy strict, but it was enough to not get to do a lot of things. So there's a lot of trying new things, experiencing things I've never done before, and sort of that excitement of just doing new stuff is a big part of my content now because
Yeah.
it's like I can now. I have the opportunity to. There's the access to it. So why the heck not? So that's a huge part of it. And also my family has very 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 dry humor, like
Mm,
like British humor, borderline. It's just there's no laugh track in the comedy shows we would watch, like nothing like that. So like I think that really inspires how I act on when I'm playing a bit. I don't laugh.
yeah.
It's just I just let it happen, and gets cringy at times, but that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. Lean into the cringe. Let the cringe
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. Well, I think too, there's something like, I don't know, very like magnetic about being the person that's like not afraid to like just like sit in the awkward for a while. There's something about that
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I really love that.
I think it's just super fun. I find it so entertaining when I'm like scrolling through TikTok and I see someone just playing this absurd part so seriously and they take it with
Mm,
full conviction, and half the comments are like, this is the dumbest thing ever, you realize you're stupid, and the other half are like in on the bit
yeah.
and they're memeing alongside, and I'm like, that's the kind of comedy I dig. It's
Yeah.
just the stuff where some people aren't quite sure if it's a bit or not.
Yeah.
Love that stuff.
Well,
I
not
thrive off
like,
of that.
I feel like coming into your chat, like, because I lurk on your stream quite a bit because I don't even know how to like how to contribute to
Interact with
chat
it. Yeah.
sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
That's fair.
but I love that your chat is very much committed to the bit with you most of the time. Like people are just with it and they're like, "Yep, this is what we're doing today." And so there's something really cool about that. And it's like, it's neat to see that you've been able to foster the kind of community or like attract the kind of people that are like just yeah they're ready to like be right there with you as you go down like whatever rabbit hole you go down.
Yeah. Like Westbound is saying, like every now and then people come into chat and be not sure if it's a bit, and my parents will be there. And
Mm,
my parents are very much in on the bit where like I'll be like, hi, everybody say hi, mom, and my mom will be like, hi kids, and I'll be like, mom, I love you. And she'll be like, all right, I gotta go, guys. Just, have fun. I'll be like, mom, say it back. And she'll be like, don't be so needy. It's not attractive. And I'm like, mom. So, that's when people finally realize, oh, this is just how things are here.
yeah,
Okay. We
yeah.
can we can we can bully lightly here. It's
Mm-hmm.
all okay.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and this idea too of like, I don't know, bullying with consent or having this kind of like unwritten understanding of kind of where the line is. How do you, I don't know how to say this, but how do you like enforce your boundaries while also like allowing a space for people to kind of like poke fun at each other?
Yeah, I've sort of made some rules. One of them is you can only bully the streamer. You can't bully anybody else in chat. You can only
Mm-hmm.
bully the streamer. If somebody else who's like on my stream doesn't want to be bullied, I make sure people know right off
Yeah.
the bat.
Yeah.
And then you have to be funny with it. If you're not funny with it, you don't get a pass. But only if you're funny with it do you get a pass. And of course, you got to remain TOS and not actually be hateful.
Sure.
But that's sort of the rule is if you're not funny with it, you don't win. So when we get like a new troll in chat, you know how there's some people who just like to walk around and collect bans. Every now and then my mods will like ban them and I'll be like, no. I want to play with them. Bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Let me squeeze some content out of these little weirdos and then we can send them on their way, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes for someone to join the audience is to be called out for being a dumbass and going, "Oh wait, there's a tactful way of doing this. There's like an actual way that doesn't make people hate me all of a sudden."
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, you just have to know how to be funny with it. And then it's okay. At least for me.
Yeah.
I don't like cyberbullying and stuff. Like I totally get that it affects a lot of people. I have no shame. I've been bullied enough to not worry about people trying to hurt my feelings on the internet.
Sure.
I don't care. You know, especially if it's not somebody I know in real life or respect in real life. It's like you can say whatever you want and I'm never going to take it seriously. But
Yeah.
that's just me. So I try to make sure that my chat knows that you don't act this way around other people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, Winky says consent is poggers, which is like, it's so true though. Consent is everything. So having this kind of understanding of like where the line is for you, making sure that like people in your chat feel safe, but also like not taking it seriously. Like there's something I envy your no shame bit. I'm doing a lot of therapy around that. So
Fair. Yeah.
but
No,
I think that's really
it's also,
powerful to be able
yeah,
to
it's
like
something I
take a
have to
troll
enforce
and
pretty often.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like every now and then I have to be like, guys, keep your topic on here. Every now and then I got to pull people back and say, okay, we're drawing the line here.
Yeah.
Reminding you guys how this works. But people are always handle it well. And if they don't, you know, they get banned.
Yeah.
If they can't play by the rules, they can't play. That's okay.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Because I think it can go off the rails way too easily too. Like so on there has to be like you're the conductor of the train, right? So like on some level there has to be like reining it in when necessary. So that's a tightrope walk, man, to be able to like allow that kind of freedom while also making sure that like it feels comfortable for everyone. So I admire your ability to do that because I don't think that's easy.
It wasn't easy to start with, but I have a really wonderful team of moderators who understand the limits, they understand the lines, and we talk often about what is okay and what is not okay and how to be they're really good representatives of how to act in chat as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to make sure that they know that not only are you like kind of the bouncer of the chat, but you also are sort of the people look up to for behavior in chat. So as long as they're acting reasonably and are in on the bit, other people are more comfortable trying it and not going overboard.
Totally. How did you go about finding your moderators?
When I first started, it was I had a couple people who I didn't know in real life who were very active in my chat. And I was like, I'm starting to gain a little bit of viewership here, and I don't think I can handle this while having two hands on an instrument. I don't think I can also moderate. Yeah. So would anybody be willing to try a sword? And I had, two people who were like, yeah, I'll give it a try. And I was like, perfect. Sounds good. I trusted them pretty good. But, they had never been on a ton of live streams either. They didn't really know the Twitch culture. I didn't really know the Twitch culture. So we kind of all learned at the same time. But thankfully, I had friends in other people's streams who were moderators who were very good at what they did, who also, I had one moderator who was very experienced named Ron D, and he would come in and give some advice, and then he would go do his own thing. I was like, perfect. You do your own thing. And that would help sort of guide the rest of us on what the heck we're doing. And then as things grew, it was basically just whoever in chat was enthusiastic, knew what the lines were and how to stay within them, knew the boundaries, and were really quick in chat, basically. And I'd be like, okay, the people I trust who are very quick in chat and very active when I'm live, I'll ask them. These days, sometimes I do a mod list, a sort of, I have people apply for it, but it's not too often because I usually just like to pick people that I think would work for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so far, there's never really been too many misses. It's all my moderators have been great, but I also don't let people take it too seriously. I'm like, I have a lot of mods so that you don't have to feel obligated to be here every time I'm live. You don't have to be obligated to not have your own life and live your own thing, because I'm not like, a lot of them refuse payment or anything like that. And it's like, okay, if I'm not going to pay you, then you're not allowed to treat this as something too serious.
Totally. Yep.
So I have people come in and out. Like, I've had many mods retire, and we have like a special retiree farm up state for them in the Discord and stuff. And it moves and it changes when people change. And I try to adjust as long as them, but they're great people.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just the nature of Twitch in general, or really like just having an audience in whatever kind of arena you're performing in, is that people are going to come and go and people will be there for a really long time and then all of a sudden disappear. And that's okay. And so I think that that's kind of, I don't know. I think that's hard for some people to grapple with, but I think that like even with your mods to kind of recognize, especially like you said, if you're not paying them, like they have no obligation to you and we all have our own lives. So to just recognize that people are going to come and go as they please. And that's not necessarily a reflection of you or what you're doing or what you're putting out there, you know?
Yeah, it was hard when I began to realize that viewership was going to change a lot,
Yeah.
and that not everybody who I really find super special to be a part of the community are going to stay forever, and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, um, I realized with the content that I watch that I'm not going to be permanently watching every single person that I watch right now, and in taking their content for forever. I change, I evolve, and sometimes it's just not what I like anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't have to be everybody's cup of tea to have a good time.
Yeah. Totally. I like that. I think that's important to remember and just to help keep you grounded in all of it, you know?
Yeah. I try to make sure that I'm not doing anything to outwardly make anybody upset with me or make anybody feel like they aren't welcome. But that doesn't mean that they have to stay. It doesn't mean
Totally.
that they have to be like really into it. Most people I know don't watch live streams, and that's okay. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. We talked a little bit about trolls and kind of, you mentioned parasocial relationships. I know that you've had some really rough interactions with people in terms of this kind of parasocial thing and to the point of people being really toxic and abusive. Like how has that experience been for you on Twitch?
Well, I'd like to say overall I'm pretty lucky with it. I've had a few really big bad interactions, but for the most part, if I've ever had somebody overstep their boundaries, it's been something that I feel safe saying, hey, take a step back, or just not responding, and letting that line be set. However, I found very quickly with Twitch that because it's live and because it's real time and it feels very honest, people get attached very quickly.
Mm,
And you don't know them. You don't know them even a little bit. You know their screen name and that's it, and that's a lot. So some people, I find a lot of people who have issues with having real life social interactions sometimes flock to places like Twitch to feel that.
yeah.
And some people get a little misguided with that, and it goes too far. And when you try to rein them in, it gets a little bit more aggressive and more
Mm,
aggressive because, some people think that you owe them, and
yeah.
you don't. You don't owe them anything. But yeah, I've had some issues with like a stalker in the past, and um I'm currently trying to get through that, but I have a really incredible team to help me out with that kind of stuff. And thankfully it's all virtual. I've never had to deal with anything in person. That's too scary.
Yeah.
Perks of Canada. Perks of Canada is
Yeah.
that nobody lives here. Nobody lives here. So it's like I meet one person like twice, like every 6 months, who
Yeah.
knows me from online, and I don't know. And that's it. It's like perfect,
Yeah.
easy. Yeah, but yeah, the online sort of harassment and stalking, it's scary. It's definitely puts a big toll on you, but I have a wonderful team to help me through this kind of thing, and I make sure to tell them that if it gets exhausting for them, that they can step out, and I can find, there's a ton of people willing to help and support during those kinds of times. So it's like, if this is scary for you, don't feel like you have to be forced to do it, but they're such a good team. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, it's fine. it's fine. We're gonna work with it. But it's also one of those things where I have to be careful who I bring in to help.
Yeah.
So that they know that things could get ugly and it could involve them, you know,
Sure.
and that's a risk that people have to be aware of. So when I get new mods now, I'm like, just a warning, there's a little bit of a mess in the background here. It's a little bit scary sometimes. So if you're not willing to deal with that, it's okay. And, you know,
Yeah.
I think that's fair to tell people right off the bat too.
Are there solutions that you've found to particular people that have been harassing you and stalking you online, or is it just kind of this ongoing, lingering thing in the background?
I've talked to a lot of professionals about it because it has been going on for about 2 years now with like one persistent person.
I'm so sorry. It's awful.
It's okay. It's not your fault, obviously. So it's like I'd rather
Sorry in
sort
terms
of
of like we live in a world that shit happens in and it's fucked up. Basically,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
I feel like I'm very well prepared and I have a great team for it. So I'd kind of prefer it to be me over someone else. You know, I would hate for this to happen to someone who feels vulnerable, you know?
Yeah.
So for the most part, what I've found to deal with it is most of the time when you have someone who's constantly harassing you, you say, I'm done, leave me alone. And you block and report everything that comes your way. And hopefully they get bored. That's
Yeah.
sort of what I've been told, is that hopefully they get bored is your solution. Unless something happens in real life, that's the best solution you got. And for the most part, that's caused me no problems except for with one individual who is quite persistent in it and finds new ways to mess with things. Recently, it's been pretty good, though, honestly. It's been pretty quiet, but unfortunately, it's because it seems like this person has changed their attention to other people in my community. Another streamer I know, Capri Sun Pappy, who like sort of helped me do non-music stuff. Like he let me join his team. It's awesome.
Oh, nice.
And he's sort of had to start getting the bulk of it now that the guy's gotten bored with me, which is really cruddy. But it's also like I have all these tools to help him, you know, and I feel like I can help him as much as I physically can. And it feels like I can do more because I'm not constantly exhausted by the harassment itself.
Yeah.
So I can work way more in the background with this and this and this and this. And, you know, both of us have a lot of resources as well inside of content creation and Twitch and everything. So we're working together, especially on this, has made things a lot easier.
Good. That's important to not be alone in it. I think that's huge. And like you said, I think with trolls, I don't know, this word troll is kind of interesting because it's like they're like the friendly fun trolls, and then there's stuff that's like really scary and legitimate harassment,
so,
right?
Trolls for me in my head are people who want to get a rise out of you in a negative way.
Right. Okay.
Whatever that may be. If that's persistent or if that's not persistent, if it's just a one-time thing or if it's a long-time thing. I think
like
long-time things I think of as more of harassment if it's a long-time thing instead of a troll. And then there's goblins who do it out of the joy. They want to see it in a fun way. They're trying to do it in a healthy, fun, chaotic way.
Yeah.
There's trolls, there's goblins, and then there's harassers who are like another level just for me, you know.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of goblins. I consider myself to be kind of a goblin, you know. And
totally.
I don't want that to be in the same association as something negative.
Yeah, because it's not the same thing. Like you said, it goes back to this idea of consent, right? And honoring each other's boundaries. So I like those distinctions. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. What is it like being on a Twitch team? What has that experience been like for you?
It was very new. I just joined like a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't really know what it was. I've been invited to join teams for like charity streams I've done or, you know, sponsors I've been a part of, but that's not really anything too big. This is like a content team, basically. It's like a collective of creators. And I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I knew the group of creators since I basically started doing non-music stuff. This guy, Capri Sun Pappy, started these content thieves. In order to just have a group of people who you can talk to who are creators at the same kind of level as you to collaborate with, to ask for help with certain parts of your stream and to make content together and just sort of have a community. And it's I have a lot of issues trusting people online. So I never really had any interest in joining a team. But when I went to TwitchCon last year, I didn't really know anybody except for Capri Sun and some music streamers. And the first night I was in there, I met all the content thieves. They were the nicest people I've ever met. Just high quality people with like genuinely care about you and want to make sure that you're safe and comfortable at all times. And I was like, whoa, that's nice. Can I hang out with you guys more? And they were like, absolutely. So I got to hang out with them for like an entire week with these people who like just automatically I felt comfortable around. And finally, I dragged myself into their team. I'm a part of them now. So
Yay.
it's been really lovely. It's a lot of sort of extra work to be doing some projects with them and stuff, but it's very rewarding because I get to work with people I really respect.
Definitely. Yeah. Were you partner when you went to TwitchCon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I had just gotten it like a couple months before.
Nice. That's
And
great.
so I was like, yes, I can be partner at TwitchCon. I can do all the VIP crap. Let's
exactly.
let's do it.
What is
Honestly, I'm
TwitchCon
very
like for
glad.
people that haven't been able to go? What was that experience like
It's
for
like-
you?
If you're just like, if you don't have any like crazy badges or anything, it's basically just a convention.
Sure.
You, with a lot of meetups, a ton of just, you see people who you've only seen from the waist up in person and you get to judge their height, you know? And that's, it's a lot of that. When you get into sort of the part where you're like a partnered person, there's a ton more. It's basically just an entire week of I forget the word when you talk to a bunch of other people and try to gain connections. Yeah, it's a week-long networking fest,
That
which
sounds
is
exhausting.
yeah, I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
But I go in there and since your partner, they see the purple badge, they let you kind of they want you to be in a lot of things. So I would go and I'd get invited to these big ass parties and I'd be like, oh, party, I'm gonna go eat some hot dogs and go vibe out by the pool in this weird mansion. And I show up and it's a networking event.
Yeah.
And I am wearing Crocs and it is whoa. And I'm sitting there and I'm seeing like, and all around me I'm seeing these content creators who are like I look up to so very, very much. And I live in Canada. I've never met someone who I would consider famous ever.
Yeah.
You know, not even been in the same room as them. And it's like, oh, I'm like, I have to like try to network here. I have to meet people. Well, okay. So
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot. But also, thankfully, because of the stupid purple badge, there was a lot of spaces to decompress.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole lounge in the actual event space itself that is just for decompressing for partners. Because it gets really overwhelming really quick. And nobody in there is taking selfies. Nobody's making content in there. Nobody's even really talking to each other. You just sort of sit there, have water, and breathe. And it was nice.
Yeah, definitely. What is it like? I don't know. This idea of professionalism, especially in the Twitch space, I think is fascinating. Especially for people like you who do really kind of like chaotic, cringe, like content. So what does that look like? Like having to have these like professional interactions and also really like leaning into the chaos of Twitch and like, I don't know, being more on the kind of like comedic, chaotic side of things.
Well, I think it's more similar to like our conversation we're having here, where you can talk openly about it, but you're not actively doing the thing, right? So I would never go into a networking event goblin mode and just start like chewing on crap, and like I wouldn't do that, but I can talk about it, and I can feel comfortable being that person, just dialed down a wee bit so I don't actually do the thing. And that usually makes things okay. But it also is kind of hard to find sponsors and brands who are willing to be a part of very chaotic content. So when I do find a good one, I get very excited.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Who are some of your streaming inspirations and some of your music inspirations, or just kind of what kind of music, what kind of streams inspire you?
So for streamers that I really look up to for just the chaotic content, it's of course Germa985 is like the cornerstone of what I wish I could be one day. I look up to him so much, and his community they are so in on the bit so beautifully. It's incredible the sort of community he's created over his content, where he doesn't have to have a bit every single time he goes live. He can just be himself, and his community will make it nightmare content. It's really something special, and of course it's taken him a ton of time to get to there. So It's sort of like a goal for me. But then sort of also people like Doug, who do sort of interactive Twitch content. He's like a programmer, so he can make the Twitch chats interactions affect him in games and in his goals on the streams and stuff like that. And he raises money for great causes and stuff too. And it's just like, ooh, that just makes me feel good. I like to watch that, and I want to be able to do more stuff that's very, very interactive for my chat while still being towards a good cause, which is something I'm working towards figuring out. Because a lot of the times whenever I have to do charity streams, it's like, okay, music stream then. Music stream with like weird incentive goals, and that's it. And it's like, I want to do more. I want to do more. But it's great to have people like that to look up to for that. And then for like music streamers, Ari at Home is a big one that I really love. He does improv looping, but he can do raps off the cuff that are really, really well done. He improvs everything, and it's great. And it's like, how do you do that? How's your brain work like that? Mine don't work like that yet. So he's a big goal to look up to for sort of the quality of music streams. But musicians in general, I really enjoy people who are more wordsmiths than anything. I really enjoy Hosier and Leanne LaHavas and a lot of sort of singer-songwriter folk people, just because of how they use their basic mediums of traditional music to create something really special and new. And it's very poetic, which I really love. And then I also love stuff like Half Alive and OK Go, who focus a lot on their visuals. Their music is great. Their music is very, very, very good. But I would have never continued listening to it had it not been for their music videos. And it's like, ooh, I want to make that. I want to do stuff where you can pull people in with the music, sure, but there's a whole subset of people who don't get engaged right away from stuff like that. Yeah. And I want to do that. So definitely. They inspire me a lot too.
Yeah. I love that. OK Go is a really fun one in terms of like, I don't know, I feel like they were very much pioneers in terms of like bringing the music video back in a way, because like, I don't know, when they first started making things, like I think that music videos had kind of died down a little bit, and it's cool to see a band like them like put in so much effort into making something really cool to watch in addition to like having a good song to listen to, you know?
Yeah, I when I first started watching them, I mean, they were huge on YouTube. They weren't huge on MTV or anything, but it was about the same time as MTV was dying that they started making a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and people went, oh snap, this is a new place to find this kind of art form. And I really like how they challenge the medium. A lot of the times they try to make their music videos as out there as possible, and it's so fun to think of what ideas and how they'd come up with concepts.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do a fraction of that. Half Alive is very similar, but they're more focused on actual dancing. Their music videos have these insane dancers. They have two that follow them on tour and everything, and the lead singer does all the choreography too, and they do these weird like modern dance style things. It's really weird, really disjunct. Their music videos are gorgeous too, but it's all about this choreography that they can do. And it's like, oh, that's like a whole side of music that I didn't really care about before here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the relationship between dance and music too, like as the person who makes the music, there's something so cool about seeing people that like want to like live that in their bodies. Like dance is such a beautiful art form that I like admire and love watching so much. And I think like as a musician, like there's something really cool about like being the one that's creating that like sonic like place for them to like live for a minute. I love that.
No, exactly. I've never really had people dance to music I made, except for one time in college. I was doing a world music ensemble, and I had to play this instrument called the gendare. It was like a xylophone but tiny, and you had to hit the metal bars with mallets, but then you had to mute them with your palm. And it was really intense. There was 4 of us playing it, and it was like, you didn't have music, you didn't have anything, so you just had to learn it by rote memory, basically. We had a very limited time to learn a very difficult song, and all of us sucked, but we got through it. And at the performance, they brought in like a really large professional musician or dancer to just live improv to it. And it was like,
so cool.
This is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I gotta focus on what I'm doing, but during like any of the warm-ups or anything, I'd be like, I'm not watching me. I'm not watching what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying the exciting part instead of just the
totally.
hard part. So
See,
it was
coming from
cool.
the jazz world, I played in like a couple like trad jazz groups and like big band kind of like bands in college, and that was like seeing swing dancers dance to your music while you're making it. It's so cool, man. It's just like,
That stuff's fire.
right? And it is, it's one of those things where it's like it kind of like takes you out of what you're doing because you're like, I'm watching you right now. Like you're performing for me, but it's this kind of like really neat conversation that you get to have with dancers. It's fun.
Exactly. I wish I knew more about it. I wish I had like any sort of idea on how to move my body
Yeah.
comfortably,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know?
Same. Same. Um, do you ever feel any like pressure or anxiety around streaming?
I think a lot of the time I do. I feel like, especially since, I have other jobs I do. I do, I have a few odd jobs that I do to make sure that my rent is comfortable and that I'm not, if I have a bad month of streaming and it's not in my control, that I don't, end up in debt,
Totally.
or more in debt, I guess. Student loans, maybe.
Yay,
But
still paying those off as well. It's a good time.
yeah, so it's like a lot of the time I feel a lot of pressure to make and be present on stream
Mm,
just in order to pay the rent. And I always feel a lot of guilt on having people support me like directly.
mm,
When I see a donation come in, I'm like, you don't have to do that. You really don't have to do that. Like, I do this for fun, but I really do appreciate it because that's how I am able to continue doing it and how to create. I'm able to fund projects is through you guys, but I hate asking for money. I
yeah.
hate it so desperately. So it's this really weird line to toe where I'm like, I'm gonna make content. I can't afford to make anything crazy content unless you support me, but also I don't want you to support me unless like I don't want to ask for that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's there's this exhausting sort of like little dance I got to do with these people to be like, I don't expect you to pay for anything, but if you do, it'll help me continue doing this.
Totally.
And so a lot of the times I'll feel like crap. I'll feel trash as heck and I'll be like, I don't want to go live. And I
Mm,
press the button and I'm like, I'll do the bare minimum today. I will hang out, I will have a conversation, and if I mentally am checked out, I'll just play some music.
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I can most of the time I don't plan out my streams, so I can just do that. And nobody is expecting more. But most of the time, an hour in or so, I get into the community rhythm and I get into like the sort of idea of how everybody acts in chat, and it really brings my mood up. And it's also a great distraction from everything else.
Yeah.
I don't check my phone while I'm streaming. I don't look at notifications. I don't think of the 500 other things I have to do because I have to be focused on entertaining people now.
Yeah.
So it's like a break basically for me from daily life.
Yeah.
It's really nice in that way. And most of the time I don't usually have a stream where I start it being like I don't really want to do this and I end it being like I don't really want to do this. It's usually ever, I change my mind pretty quickly in there.
Yeah. There's very few things that kind of force me into the present moment, but performing is one of them. Like whether it's music or streaming, like there's something about that like you said, yeah, it really does. It requires your full attention in so many ways. And so there's something about being able to do that is like so nice. Like you said, it's kind of a break from your reality in some ways.
Yeah, especially since a lot of what I do is very self-motivated, sort of self-employed type stuff,
Yeah.
where I have a list of 500 things I need to do, and I have really bad ADHD, so that stuff just stresses me out to look at.
Sure.
And so I'll get a bunch done, and then I say, okay, if I get enough done, then I can stream. And
Yeah.
then that's like my break.
That's
And
like
that's
your
nice.
reward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but it's also like if I'm feeling really cruddy and I can't get anything done and I'm like suspended by the fear of things, I can take a brain break for a second
Yeah.
and then come back feeling refreshed and actually in a good mood and give
Yeah.
it a try.
Do you
Yeah.
think that's part of why it's so hard to accept donations and like ask for financial support from people because it feels like this kind of reward or this break for you?
Oh, definitely. I
Yeah.
think since I'm like, I'm not doing this for you guys, I'm not doing this for anybody else, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
If I didn't enjoy it, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it. That feels like, oh, I don't want to owe you something because I don't feel like I'm doing this for you
Mm.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, so I try to make sure that whenever someone does donate, that they get rewarded immediately. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, can I play a song for you? Which is so easy to just do. If I have a
Mm-hmm.
list of 400 songs, it's like, oh, if you give me money, I'll let you pick a song and I'll do it for you. And then there's 5 to 10 minutes of support for them, and then I move on. And then it's like, okay, I've earned that, basically. I like to make sure that I earn what I've been given. So, it's either that or I say directly, this money is going towards this project. And then I feel a little better about it. But if it's just people giving me money for no reason, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It feels very uncomfortable. So if someone ever does that, I'm like, this is going towards this thing? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you.
You can pay your rent this month. Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
I struggle with it in a similar way. I think it's really hard for me to accept that even though I am doing this for me, other people benefit from it. It's really hard for me to understand that. And so like, and I get reminded of that all the time, and it's really beautiful, and it's also really hard for me to believe. Like I don't understand it sometimes, like I'm in disbelief of the fact that like people find something worthwhile about hanging out with me while I'm like playing World of Warcraft, right? There's something about that like inspires people to like support me. When like you said, like I'm just doing this because I love it and I need this outlet, So it's interesting. It's interesting allowing people to support you in that way and recognizing that like even if you are doing this for you, it is helping other people, and they are in charge of their wallets, and theoretically they are adults who can, make those decisions for themselves,
Yeah. Whenever anything crazy happens, like a big old hype train or anything, I always make sure to tell people, hey, like do this within your means.
Yeah.
Treat yourself and reward yourself in real life first and your loved ones IRL, and then you can donate to a fake internet person. But make sure that you take that, that step first, so that,
Totally.
it's not just getting dumped into the ether and you never see it again, So, and I think that my community is very comfortable with that fact too. They don't expect anything parasocial from it either, which is so good. So good. I hate it when people like expect conversation. Yeah. They give me money for conversation. It's like, no.
This kind of like sense of entitlement and this sense of like, now I have access to you because I gave you money, right? And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
And don't get me wrong, I like to thank people, after stream. I like to send them a message when I can, being like, hey, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. But I don't let it go further than just some thank yous and maybe a little catch up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of your day jobs, your gigs outside of streaming?
My main one right now is that I'm a music teacher.
Okay.
I teach a lot of voice and piano and rock bands and stuff like that. I do a lot of ensemble work, which is really fun. So I've never taught voice before doing it for this job basically this year, which was terrifying because I've never thought that I was a good enough vocalist to teach other people. But I'm finding, because I taught classical violin and classical piano all growing up and stuff like that. So I was used to that. But I find that I'm a lot better at teaching voice than anything else. So I'm like, yes, I have an ability I didn't realize I had. That's great.
Cool.
So that's been very, very rewarding to work on. However, when people ask me to do online virtual classes, I'm like, please don't make me do that. I have no idea how to do that yet. I'm scared. So that's one of my main gigs. I also I do painting parties. I teach painting sometimes and stuff like that. It's not anything serious. I don't have to be good, but I have to be entertaining. So stuff like that. I have a couple little odd jobs I do, and most of what I do is a lot of projects. A lot of, I'm working on the album, I work on videos, I work on stuff like that with my friends, and a lot of it doesn't pay directly, but it helps with stream and making sure that happens as well. So a lot of my day is just making content to make the stream worth it.
Yeah. Do you have time for hobbies or passions outside of kind of streaming and work stuff?
Not at all.
No.
I've made sure that I have time via making sure that a lot of my jobs and work is based on my hobbies, like making an album is such a hobby thing when you don't have like a team or anything for that. Sure. And for me, it's completely independent. I'm kind of learning everything as I go. I have a couple of people who've helped on like recording and mixing, but everything else I'm doing myself, which is terrifying. But it's also like, oh, then that's like my time to do my me thing. And then I also have the opportunity to make big choices in it. Like, oh, do I want to make a music video? How weird do I want to get with it and stuff like that? And I can sort of add my little hobbies into it without it being like a full overarching, my hobby is taking over my life type thing.
Yeah. where is that boundary for you in terms of like, okay, I need to be a human being outside of all of these different projects and things that I'm doing?
I think I just make sure that I have maybe like an hour or two a day where I can just exist and not be expected to be making anything,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of the times that's hard for me, especially with
Yeah.
anxiety. It's like I constantly feel like if I'm not making anything, then I'm not worth anything, which
Mm.
sucks. But I try to make sure that I ground myself and talk to people IRL,
Yeah.
meet up with somebody, because then it's like, okay, I'm not allowed to look at work stuff right now. I'm with somebody, you
Yeah.
know? And usually it's if I'm hanging out with other people that I get that sort of break
Yeah.
and get to do my own thing. And I try to make sure that that happens at least weekly. At least
Yeah.
weekly, I make sure that that happens. I make sure I get enough sleep too. Those are the big things.
That's important. Yeah. And it's not easy to do. Um,
No.
no, it's not. Twitch chat. In just a minute here, I'm going to open up questions from you all. So if you have questions for Julie, type them into chat and we'll get to that. And also, thank you for all the follows, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here, Julie Go Live people. So while we wait for some questions to roll in, Julie, what are some things that have maybe surprised you since you started streaming?
I had no idea what my personality actually was until I started streaming. I'm going to be honest.
Interesting.
Because I've never felt no anxiety, basically.
Uh-huh.
And when I'm live, I don't feel anxiety. It's crazy. So I've always been sort of stuck in this box of like, I got to make sure that I'm not being too weird for other people
Yeah.
at all times. And so I also had never really lived independently, and now I get to. And it's like, oh, I can just authentically be myself all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm really developing and cultivating a personality and becoming who I want to be instead of just what I'm not scared of offending other people with,
Sure.
I don't offend other, like, I don't know why that's a worry for me, because I don't offend other people. It's more so just, I got anxiety. So I got to make sure that I'm not pushing any buttons.
Yeah.
But I've never felt so comfortable and happy with how I am than since I've started doing this as my full-time gig. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing. The other thing is I didn't think that I could actually think of things very quickly.
Yeah.
And I find that if I try to force it, nothing happens. But the second that I sort of let my brain go and I just sort of let things happen, the wildest shit comes out, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and having a platform for that, an outlet for that is really cool. Well, and I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
interesting
yeah,
too,
it's
the
so
way that
cool.
like finding out who you are kind of corresponded with quarantine and like the peak of the pandemic also. Like I think that that's something that a lot of people share is all of a sudden we had all this time on our hands and also had to be alone with ourselves. So it's like on some level you kind of we were all forced to figure out who we were. So it's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool that
we all
worked out
had
for
like our
you.
we all had our life crisis at the same time.
Yes.
We all
Yes,
fell into
exactly.
shambles, and now we're back to rebuilding ourselves, and it's very exciting, to
Mm-hmm.
just, a lot of people started rebuilding themselves by going back to how things were, and
Yeah.
I'm not, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm
Yeah.
fully with you. I'm very stubborn about like, no, we can't go back because there is no going back. That's not how this works, you know? And I think it's frustrating how much people are like, oh, the pandemic's over. We're all going outside now. It's like, hold on a minute. Like, we learn nothing from the last 3 years, you know? So it's very refreshing talking
And I
to
think
someone who feels
it's fair
that.
to have, a couple things that, you go back to. You're like, oh
Oh
yeah, like,
yeah.
you know what, like if you miss something that's like, live shows, concerts, stuff like that, especially for me, it's like, yeah, that has a lot of people in it. And if you want to, make sure that you're not, when you go to work the next day, that you're not carrying someone with you, just wear a mask and nobody cares, and it's, don't eliminate masks and don't shame people for being safe. But
Yeah,
if you want
totally.
to, but if you're vaxxed and waxed and ready to party, then I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're not risking other people with it,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is just making sure that you're safe and that you're keeping other people's safety in mind. But like especially for
Yeah.
music, like man, not having live places to play music and to go like see musicians, like that's detrimental for so many people psychologically, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I think now what the difference is that I don't have to choose to do concerts and that's it. I can do live shows, and like I'm thinking of maybe doing a tour sometime, but
Yeah.
instead of having it just be going to venue, it would be doing a venue with like a content creator I know and maybe doing a stream with them, and then
Mm-hmm.
going to the next place and sort of doing like a hybrid thing where I can do all the things, and it feels like there's a low pressure version and there's one that's a little more exciting, you know, and
Yeah.
I can choose how scared I want to be, basically.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Beyond Echo says, what is the limit of how many whole citrus fruits that you can eat?
Okay. Like, they've made me eat oranges like apples, like
Oh,
rind
I've
and all.
seen. Why?
I don't
How?
like it.
Well, how did this? How did this happen?
So the only people who have access to send me food now, because it used to be like I had a little treat stream for a little while there, but then I
Mm,
realized people would send me food and I didn't really want food, and I'd be like, nah, screw that. So my mods have access to get me food sometimes.
okay.
And so sometimes one of my mods, John, is like, I'll treat you to a little sandwich. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. That's
Mm-hmm.
so sweet. But one time he's like, I'll send you food. And I was like, okay, awesome. And he delivers it, and it's this brown bag full of oranges, and that's it. That's all it is. And I'm like, what do I do with this? What do you want me to do with this? And I look at one, and the impulsive thought is to bite it like an apple. So I do. And chat's like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, it's fine. It's awful, but it's not gonna kill me. And then they hype trained me to actually eat the entire orange. And now whenever I have a hype train, I have to go grab an orange, basically. But I think my limit was I had 3 in one day, and that sucked. That
Yeah.
sucked. That messes with your if you take any like birth control, messes with that, apparently.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I had like hardcore like period pains after that,
Oh
which was like, what the fuck?
no.
From citrus, bro? So
Is it because of
I
the
try to
vitamin
limit
C or
myself.
like acid?
Like grapefruit is really bad for contraceptive. So having the rind of 3 full oranges kind of
Yikes.
does the same thing I learned. So
This is a very educational moment for all of us. I think we've learned a lot here.
yeah.
Winky wants to know, what is your number one favorite streaming moment?
Oh man. I think the one that sort of changed my life the biggest was I was kind of like 6 months into streaming. I had sort of done a couple things that got me a lot of viewership, but I wasn't doing anything too crazy. I was at like maybe 40 or 50 concurrent viewers, which is, you know, not far off from how I am now. It wasn't like too crazy, but I had someone come in and we were having a conversation, and I was in college and stuff, and I was like, oh, you know, thank you guys for doing this. Anything extra that's coming from the stream that I'm not putting towards anything for the stream or for music, I'm putting towards my student loans because I need to pay those off.
Yeah.
I need those gone. And someone was like, well, how much student loans do you have? And I told them, and this person came in and just paid off my entire student loan debt at that point.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, it was dumb as hell. And I stopped and I was like, that's a joke. You're going to charge me back. And he sends me all the info, and he's like, no, this is completely legitimate. Like, I called him and made sure that this wasn't a scam. And he was like, yeah, I don't even expect to like be here anymore. I just wanted to do a nice thing for a person because I have the means to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I called my parents and was like, this is like, I can do streaming. Like, and I can not worry about doing this degree because I have to now. Like, it's not like an investment now. It's like I can kind of do it because I want to, take the things I want to out of it and choose what to do with my life. So it's completely changed the trajectory of anything I had planned, because I was still trying to be I was like, okay, I can only do violin. I'm still only a violinist. I only have these abilities. And I was like, no, you can. Kind of opened up everything for me. It was amazing.
How cool. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. Self-harmonize says, Julie, does that have eye holes in it? Also, how comfy are you with bits that follow you into other streams?
No, this doesn't have eye holes. They know I like a good ski mask, so they're trying to figure out if I'm wearing one right now. I'm not. Bits that carry me into other streams. I mean, for the most part, it's fine, you know. Like, my chat is obnoxious, but I try to make sure that they follow the rules of other people's chats, and they follow the vibe of other people's chats while incorporating that humor.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to make sure that even if they're not going to take anything too crazy seriously, that they still try to play nice and not ruin the vibe of a different stream, you know?
Totally.
And for the most part, the streams that I go on are people like the Content Thieves who have similar energy to me. Their channels and their chats are very similar to mine. So it's not really a big deal. But when I go on something that's very different, I like to make sure they're not too crazy.
Totally. Jug
Yeah.
fans, you're doing great. We're proud of you. You're doing wonderfully.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job, kids.
Good
You won't
job.
get in trouble after the substitute, you know, it'll be fine.
Unless you want to, in which case that's a whole other conversation.
Oh God, not again.
Not again. Let's see. T. Miller wants to know, what are the 3 fictional characters that best describe you?
Oh God, I have to think of people who don't actually exist in real life. God, I feel like I'm like if oh thank you Harm. I feel like I'm like if Shigo was less hot and more socially anxious, but I still got that like that sarcasm. It's just super sarcastic.
Yeah.
I also feel a little bit like Squidward.
Okay.
Just a little bit where just I can just play the grumpy guy pretty well, where I can just hate, but it spurs on other people to continue doing it with the grumpiness I do. It's not like I want this to stop grumpy. It's a more like shut the fuck up, I'll kick your ass type thing, you know. And oh goodness, who else? I don't know. I kind of feel like Power from Chainsaw Man, where like Power is like a devil human where they just act on impulses at all times. I was like, yeah, that impulsivity, that's just me, but I try not to hurt other people with it, which I guess is the difference. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. Wondergoon says, what are your favorite novels, if any? Do these novels define you?
I have a fair few. I haven't read anything quite recently, but I just got a new book yesterday, so I'm very excited about that. But one of the books that sort of changed how I felt and how I looked at things a lot was the 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared by Eric Erikson. And it's just sort of following this guy's life where he's living in a senior's home. It's his 100th birthday, and he's like, I don't actually want to be here today. They won't let me have alcohol in here, and I want alcohol. So he just climbed out the window and he just went on an adventure. And his whole temperament the entire time was like, I'm going to just do this. I'm not going to worry about, you know, the repercussions of my actions if it's not serious, you know? And it was like, it took him so far. And having that idea of like, I can just do things and it doesn't have to be for a huge goal. And a lot of the times it'll take you there anyways if you're not worrying about it. I was like, that's kind of a nice way to think of things. Plus it was funny as hell. It had a lot of really wonderful humor, and it had a lot of like heartwarming stuff. And then another one like that was man, I forget that. Oh no, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. It's a book that challenges the medium of books. It has a ton of pages that have like red pen in them and everything, and there's a bunch of illustrations in it that are just wild, and you'd flip through it and go, what the fuck is this book? Why are there turtles having sex in it? And stuff like that. And like you'd have no idea what the book is about, but you'd see these things and get engaged, and you pull through it and you realize it's like this really hard story about this kid whose dad died in 9/11, trying to pick up the pieces of like the last sort of challenge his dad left for him, and if it's actually left for him, or if his dad died before he could actually put it into place and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, it's really heartwarming. And it's, especially with anything that is not just words on the page, it's for a very good reason. And it's like the idea of challenging the medium is so important to me. So finding media that does that is very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really cool. Westbound wants to know, what is your favorite anime currently?
I don't watch a ton of anime, so I have to say Chainsaw Man, because it's kind of, I wasn't really into too much of anything regarding like a lot of Japanese media, because I read a lot of manga as a kid, didn't really care for it. I was like, it's really short to read, and I like things that take a little bit of time to get through. Like I like movies more than I like television. It's the same idea. And then I started hanging out with people who have a lot of, you know, anime and manga influences, and my friend Greg was like, hey, you should check out Chainsaw Man. Just read one of the books and see if you like it. And the pacing was extraordinary, and the humor was exactly what I wanted and everything. And I managed to read the whole thing in like 2 weeks, like 10 books. And then they had an anime, and I went, that's going to be really good. And I don't usually like anime because it's a little too disjunct with the animation style for me. It kind of distracts me a lot of the time. And I have trouble paying attention to subtitles and something at the same time, so I really struggle with that. But since I had already read the book, I didn't have to worry about missing too much. The animation style was really cool and unique, so it was just great.
Yeah. Nice. Amanda wants to know, what is the most starstruck you've ever been?
Oh my god. It's either meeting Amaranth was insane to me.
I saw your picture. I was like, that's wild.
Dude, it was just at the partner party, like, which is just the most insane hype beast shit I've ever been to. It's every single partner who can make it to TwitchCon stuffed into one event, and they're all trying to be somebody to everybody. It's a lot of posing. It's a lot of shit like that. And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I knew basically nobody there either. So I was just wandering it most of the time and like kind of, you know, meeting with people, but socially anxious me is like, I don't want to impose. I'll keep my role going.
Sure.
And I had finally been like, okay, I'm going to head out. I'm kind of tired of this. I met some people that I really liked, and I turn around and I'm seeing Amaranth and I'm like, 1 second, I'm going to go say hi. It's really quick. So that was fun. At the same event, the first person that I ever met that I knew online, like parasocially, basically, I was a fan of, was this chick named Made You Look by Lex, who does face painting and makeup videos. And she's like an OG YouTuber, basically. Maybe not like OG, but, you know, like 2010s or so. And I had followed her since she started, and I was such a big fan. And she was just there. And she didn't have, like, she wasn't big on Twitch or anything. So she was just there trying to network too. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan and I don't know how to act. It was crazy. I didn't do anything weird, obviously. I was just like, hey, I really like you. And I thought I'd just say hi. And she was so sweet.
Yeah.
And then, God, who else? Oh, going to like a networking event and just sitting at the same table as like iDubbbz and Pay Money Wubby. So terrifying to be like, oh, I'm in the same area and kind of the same league right now with these people. Dear God, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing.
That's wild. Yeah. It's wild being in like one room with like all of those people. Like, and like you said, the kind of parasocial element of it. It's like, I've watched your streams from my vantage point. I've spent hours with you, and yet like,
and I was like, and you know, I was with people, and some people were like, oh, should we approach them or anything like that? And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that unless it's something that I have to talk to them about or something like that. You know, if there's something to engage. I don't want to go to this sort of event and be like, I'm a big fan. Can I take a picture? You know, it didn't feel like the vibe. So
right, totally.
Tried to maintain my space and make sure that everybody just was comfortable.
That makes sense. Yeah. You got to play the game on some level, right? Like,
yeah, I don't want to look like a weirdo.
Totally. Yeah. Let's see. Winky asks, how many capos have you lost, and have you ever found any of them?
Oh my God, I've lost so many capos. Like the amount of them that are just... No, it's all good. Like every time, because I my ADHD spawns in many ways, but one of them is that I lose things constantly. I will set something down, it doesn't exist to me anymore. Makes my house a mess. My house is always a mess because I just set something down and I look away and it's gone. It's not there anymore. My recognition is gone. So when I set down a capo, I'll just set it in any random spot. Like sometimes it'll be here, sometimes it'll be on this thing, sometimes it'll still be on the guitar, sometimes it'll just be on the floor because it just fell there and I'm like, yes, there's a capo on the floor, moving on, and I forget about it. I've bought like 5 capos, and at this point I know where 2 of them are. And it circulates which ones I know where they are and which ones I don't. So it's like, I've lost many, but somehow I still have like 1 or 2 on hand as often as I can.
Well, and how many guitars do you have?
God, currently I use 3 right now. I have 1 more in storage.
Okay.
But I have 3 that I use. I try to limit myself to 3 is sort of my rule.
I can imagine capos like moving between the different guitars and not knowing which one has a capo at any moment. Also, yeah. I try to make sure that I have like 1 on my travel guitar. Like if I'm going to perform live, I have a capo for that one. And then I have a capo for in here. And then that's where it stays, is in this room. It doesn't leave the room. So that helps a little bit at least, you know, then I don't have to dig too much. But sometimes I lose my capo on stream. And then like one time I lost my capo and one of my mods went back in the VOD and found where I dropped it and just told me exactly where it was. And that was terrifying. That's funny. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. Well, that's such an ADHD thing. It's just like I'm very good at disappearing things, so I relate to that. I understand how that is. Where it's like, well, I guess I own like 3 eyelash curlers for no reason other than I just disappear them. Like no one needs
Yeah,
eyelash curlers. Especially I don't.
I've
Yeah.
been there.
Let's see. Winky also wants to know if you had to delete one aspect of your life, what would it be? That's a deep one.
Let's see. If I had to just get rid of one aspect of my life, that's like kind of a broad question because I don't really know what an aspect would entail. Um, I guess for me, it would probably be the sheer amount of time I spend watching Minecraft videos just to disassociate to. I just sit there and it's like if my brain is going too quick, I'm like, I'll just turn on a Minecraft video while I'm eating and I'll be an iPad kid for a little bit. And if I could just get rid of that and be mindful, that would be pretty nice. Although the amount of time I've spent watching hardcore Minecraft videos that are like 60 minutes long minimum, it's just like I'm in too deep now. I know the culture way too well. I'm not even into like the Dream SMP stuff or anything. I don't even give a shit about that. It's mostly just people building shit. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to eat my food and stop thinking for a bit.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah. Currently Coin wants to know what's the most rewarding thing you've gotten from streaming that you would have never expected?
Most rewarding thing I've gotten from stream. I think it's probably like if it's a physical thing, it would be like every time I've been sent like a gift or been given like a little card or a little something like that, like a lot of the times when I meet people in person, they have a little message for me because a lot of times it's kind of scary to be honest with people to their face a lot of the time, especially when you're just used to text-based conversation for the most part. So a lot of the times people will send me a little letter or something like that, and I hold that very, very dearly. I keep them very close because it's so cool to have a physical thing. The other thing that happened is one year for my birthday, they did one of those kudo boards for me without telling me. And whenever I'm feeling absolutely shitty, I pop on that kudo board and realize that there are people who care.
Yeah. That's great. Let's see. Self Harmonize wants to know what is the most recent song that you've discovered that resonated with you?
Oh man. There's a song called I Don't Want to Be Funny Anymore. That's kind of fire. And it's kind of about a chick being like, I have one thing that I'm good at and that I'm known for. I don't want to be known for that anymore. And I was like, I've been feeling that. I've been feeling that for like a couple years now, and it's kind of crazy to feel like other people also have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then the other one is I listened to Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters in the past year.
I love Fiona
especially
Apple so much.
Fetch the Bolt Cutters changed me, dude. It's like it's sort of the idea of not only the words being very deep and very resounding, like this is trauma that I'm dragging you through with me, and it's like fuck, dude. But it's also the idea of doing some weird shit with your vocals and not being afraid to do experimental stuff to explain this and showing it in such a visceral way. She has such a great way of being very visceral with things. That's beautiful to me.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. Ohar Jam says, what is your opinion on racism?
Probably the same as most people. Don't really dig it. Not really my thing. Like,
I read that one. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's bad. We can get into a very like deep conversation about systemic racism and fucked up nature of all sorts of things. But
yeah, I like to make sure that I'm getting worldviews and opinions from people who actually have experienced them. Yeah, I try to make sure that I don't overstep my boundaries on what I talk about. I think that's fair, though.
Yo, sick. Let's go. Racism dislikers unite.
Let's go. Anti-racism gang. Let's go.
We're all on the same page. We'll take just a couple more here. Thank you, Twitch chat, for amazing questions. Beyond Echoes wants to know, is there a particular quality you look for in a song you decide to live loop, or do you just pick songs that you like and make them work?
Oh, it's always, I always look at the guitar chords for everything. And if those guitar chords repeat, then I can loop it. But if they don't repeat, it causes quite a bit of trouble with looping because sure, I loop the drums, and the drums I can just do over live guitar, but if I want to add bass and I want to add some synth or something like that, and I want it to feel full, consistently through the song, it can't have a ton of differences with its chord progressions, which also makes it hard for me
Yeah.
to write music that's not super basic because I write with my looper a lot of the time. I'll have
Yeah.
an idea, I'll write it kind of in my head, I'll put it on the looper, and then I'll work with it. So it kind of has been limiting me lately, which means I've been working on finding different ways to write that don't involve a 5-channel looper, which has been
Yeah.
fun.
I'm okay. Can I get nerdy in music theory with you for a minute?
Yes.
Because I have always been fascinated by loop pedals, and I really want to get one, and I'm just like very intimidated by it. So in terms of like amount of measures and amount of chords that can change within a progression, like is there is there a limit to that like makes sense for you in terms of a loop?
I mean, with most modern pop music, it's usually like a 4-chord loop or an 8-chord
Okay.
loop. And
Okay.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's totally reasonable. You can do as long as you want on most loopers. They don't usually have like an actual reasonable limit. It's usually like a 10-minute limit for loops, which we'll never use.
Yeah.
So usually it's not really that big of a deal with the limitations of the equipment. It's more of your own ability. And for
Yeah.
me, it's like I can get through 4 to 8 bars like well on the first try. Further than that, I'm not doing well.
No,
So
that makes sense because it's like really
yeah.
groups of 4 if you're gonna go 4-4, right? Well, and even if you're gonna go
Mm-hmm.
3-4, but like doing like 4 or 8 or 12 or 16, I feel like would make a lot of sense. But like,
Yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna do like a 32 bar like AABA kind of a thing, like it's gonna get so complicated so quick, right? So
And
I
part
was
of what
curious about that. Yeah.
yeah, part of what I focus on with my looping is being quick at it. And
Yeah.
if you have a 16 bar loop, it's going to take you 10 minutes to get a whole loop setup done. And
Yeah.
I want to be
Yeah.
done the whole song by then. So it's usually like whatever's quickest, which usually is a 4-bar phrase. And if I want to do like if there's a different 4-bar phrase in the song, maybe I'll save a loop aside just for that one.
Yeah.
And then I'll just have one for that. But a lot of the times I'm just like, no, I'll just stop half the loops that have the harmonic stuff in it. And then I'll just play along and keep the rhythmic stuff. And it works out okay. But usually it's like 4 to 8 bars. That's my limit. That's how I can get something done within 5 minutes, basically.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, it's really cool. I think that's how I found you was like that it said like I don't know, in your title it said something about like loop pedal, and I was like, I'm in. I want to see it. Like I love it. I think it's so cool. It's such a cool way to like
It's so fun.
I don't know, see people like build a song from scratch, seemingly from scratch. Like I think it's really neat, and it's neat to be able to like think about music in terms of layers because I'm not as much of a harmonic musician as I am a melodic. Like saxophone is like melody, right? So being more from like a harmony kind of standpoint in terms of having like chords that like stack and then having like rhythm beneath it, like it's cool. It's cool to see how different musicians' brains work because you need all of those parts, but like if you're a loop musician, you kind of have to have an understanding of all of them, right?
I think for loopers, like a lot of the people who really enjoy looping like I do, most people who play music and play a single sound instrument like a saxophone or like, something where it only makes one sound usually, you think very horizontally. You think of the line of the music,
Yeah.
right? And for me, I am obsessed with the verticalness
Yeah.
of sound. And I think that things that sound good together is what I resonate most with music. So,
Yeah.
that's sort of me. But Winky is saying Tash Sultana might break a 10-minute looper. I saw Tash Sultana live, and they actually don't do anything too crazy more than I do. They just have a butt ton more instruments, and like they're like an insane live looping artist, and they do just like 4 to 8 bar phrases as well, but they do have like a live drum setup, 2 synths, a bass guitar, 2 other guitars, and then they have like a loop board that is connected to all the other loop boards at like 4 places on the stage. So they can walk
Wild.
around, do a solo, and stomp around and actually make it happen. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not, I got to see it live, so I could see that it's not crazy different from what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's just a lot bigger of a production, basically.
It's very cool. Well, and this idea of thinking about music in terms of like vertically, I think that speaks to maybe having a composition background too. Because if you're going to be a composer, especially if you're talking about like film scores and that kind of stuff, like you have to think about it vertically, right?
I mean, I get obsessed with it though, to the point where the melody kind of takes a back end to it, and then it's
Yeah.
not as good, and then nobody cares about it because it's like nobody else cares about the verticalness of it except for very few people.
Well, I think people
So
need that melodic kind of horizontal thing to hold on to and think about the rest of
exactly.
the vertical to be a foundation. So that's interesting to like have the melody kind of take a back seat to that.
Well, I was doing composition in university, and
Yeah.
my composition teacher at one point stops me and is like, I think we just need to help you learn how to write a melodic phrase because I don't think you know how to do that. And this was like 4 years into my degree, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So I had to spend like an entire semester just studying how to make lines make sense and feel intentional melodically.
Yeah.
And it's still something I catch myself just not even thinking of, just not
Yeah.
even imagining when I write music. It's just like, nah, I like the chords. The chords sound pretty with this sound.
Yeah.
It'll work together somehow. And sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, though.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to find where we left off. So many good questions. I don't even know where I am. So I apologize if I miss one of your amazing questions here. Maybe we might be caught up. We might be good. Did we do it, Twitch chat? I think we did. Oh no, wait, sorry. One more. Westbound wants to know, what is a genre of music you absolutely dislike, if there is one?
I think I've been very fortunate to have been forced to have an open mind about most genres. I don't think I've ever found a single genre where I hate every single thing in it as an overarching genre. However, modern sort of top 100s country doesn't vibe with me. It feels like simplified rock music a lot of the times, where it has a simple chord structure and the melody is just like 4 notes.
Yeah.
And it follows the same pattern almost every time when it's made by a board and there's like some dude singing it, you know. And as someone who's grown up in like rural Canada, it's all country music here. And these big artists come in and it's like, oh, you could play a show opening for this guy. And it's like, I don't think I'm their people.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's gonna work for me. And I
Totally.
go to the show and my friends are all excited and I'm like, I just don't get it. It's not exciting to me. But I know it's also sort of like a comfort thing. A lot of the times you can listen to modern country and you don't have any surprises. And that's nice. And sometimes it can talk about a lot of times country music talks about very simple rural concepts instead of crazy mental like anguish and shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a great place to find, you know, very like home feeling vibes and not be surprised. But that's just not my energy.
Yeah. That's fair. That's totally fair. Okay, one final one. Real final question. Are you a Mars Volta enjoyer?
I don't even know who Mars Volta is.
Oh, they're like math
What's
rock.
Mars Volta?
They're pretty cool. You should check them out. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. I have a very niche in my brain where it's like if things get too complex, I start getting stressed out. So I don't listen to a lot of math rock. I don't listen to a lot of prog or a lot of
I was gonna say it's right in that world. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of stuff with a lot of like really heavy noise as well. A lot of the punk I listen to is quite simple and stuff like that, just because I get stressed out with my brain because a lot of the times I feel like I have to analyze as I go along.
Yep.
And it's not fun when you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Totally. For me, it all depends on like the moment, like in terms of genre of music. Like, am I listening to this music to focus on this music, or am I listening to this music to enjoy it in the background as I do something else, right? Because those are like two completely different things in terms of what I'm able to listen to just kind of passively versus like, no, if this is on, my brain can't do anything other than like focus on this right now, you know?
New music. Yeah, I can't listen to new music while doing something. I have to be putting my full attention into that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I just don't have the energy these days to be listening to something super complex and enjoying myself.
Totally.
So
yeah,
a lot of the times it's like, if I need to get something done, let's pop on something I already know.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about it then. I've already gone through the struggle of doing it.
Yeah.
So then it's usually like driving in my car, I'll listen to new stuff. But
Yeah.
most of the time if I'm working, keep it simple.
Totally. Yep. Twitch chat, great questions. Thank you so much. We're going to start kind of winding down, start wrapping up things here. Julie, do you have any like pre-stream or post-stream rituals that you do?
I pee and poop. I mean, I think that's the rules. I try to eat a little something before stream because I don't know how long they're going to last most days.
Sure.
Some days they're 3 hours, sometimes they're 8, and I have no clue when that is going to happen. So I eat a little something before stream, I pee and I poop. And then I just, part of getting my whole stream set up is really helpful because I have so many doohickeys to turn on and make sure they work and stuff like that.
Sure.
So a lot of the times it's like I'll set things up and I'll make sure my mic is going by making a bunch of monkey noises, you know, and that's sort of like a thing. And now that's unfortunately now that I do live shows and I have to test mics there, I automatically go to monkey noises.
Oh
and
yeah, your
people
mic
get
check
very
was great
confused.
before we went live. It was wonderful. I loved it.
It's like monkey noises test the full extent of the loudness
It's
of your
true, though.
microphone and the
Yeah.
blowiness of the microphone. So it's like I use it. But anyways, that's kind of all I do. And then post stream, usually I just, you know, check Discord, make sure nothing's trending on Twitter that'll kill me. And then go on with the rest of my day.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any advice for your younger streamer self?
Oh my God, stop giving a shit sooner.
Mm.
Like, please stop caring sooner. And if you really have something that you want to go for, don't try to edge your way around doing it and slowly make your way to doing it. If people leave and it's not your fault. But
Sure.
I'm also pretty glad that I took some time to let people enjoy my personality outside of just personality driven content before I jumped into that totally.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I did things pretty well, but also like communication's number one. Please just communicate a little better. If you're overwhelmed, tell people instead of just avoiding it. You know, that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like if I got too much on my plate, instead of just saying, oh, I'll do it later or something like that. No, just let people know that you're doing it later at the very least.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you have any goals or projects that you're working on right now?
I mean, I got an album I'm working on.
Yeah.
It's very close to being done. I'm very excited about it. It's my first time doing anything large scale. It's the first time being able to put something that I can hear in my brain out into something physically because I usually don't have that ability on my own.
So exciting.
So it's so exciting. It's so exciting, and doing all the visuals and everything is it's total freedom to do something really fucking weird, but have it be taken seriously, which is really cool. And other than that, I have some, you know, larger scale goofy ass streams planned, like a duckathon where like have you played Plastic Duck Simulator?
I've watched other people play it. I haven't played it myself. Yeah.
It's a very simple game for people who don't know in chat where it's just ducks generate in a pool. That's it. It's rubber ducks and that's it, and you can name them. That's all it is. And my chat loved how much I hated it. So they've managed to reach a goal where I'm going to set up a pool on my balcony and put ducks into it when they give me money.
Nice.
And as long as the timer's going, I'm going to have the balcony cam up and we're just going to watch the stupid fucking ducks. And I'm going to sit there and be angry with people.
How many ducks do you think you're going to have to buy to pull that off?
I have no idea. I'm terrified. I'm gonna plan for like maybe like 200 ducks. I don't think I'll need that many, but you know, I'll aim for like 200 ducks.
Okay, I like it. Guys, go follow Julie on all the things so that you don't miss the release. Is there a release date yet for the album, or is it still kind of in that like finishing
No, it's
stage?
still a little bit up in the air, but I have a single coming out probably in about a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Go
So
follow
I'm
her
very
on all
excited
the
about that.
things so that you don't miss it when that album comes out, okay? All right, so for our final little thing here, I want to do a tradition from this stream or the podcast where we'll end it on a 10-question questionnaire. So it's 10 questions inspired by James Lipton, Bernard Pivot, and CJ the X. So just kind of like off the cuff, first thing you think of, like quick and dirty kind of answers, yeah? You ready?
Okay. Sure.
Which game or activity do you love to stream the most?
Goblin energy screaming.
Which game or activity do you hate to stream the most?
Fallout New Vegas.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Clown women. Things that challenge the medium.
What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Taxes. And and people who take themselves too seriously.
Which streamer would you like to meet most in real life?
If I could be in the same room as Germa, I would shit my pants.
Yeah. What's something you'd like to try on stream but you never have?
Talking to people on the street. I wanna do like street interviews. That would be really fun. I'm too anxious now, but someday.
What is something you would never want to do on stream?
Talk to people on the street. I'm too anxious right now. But right now it's a no, but someday I want to do that. Just gotta build up that courage.
For sure. Why do you go live?
To make myself feel like I'm not alone.
Follow-up question. Why do you really go live?
To hear the sound of my own voice and scream at a wall.
Yeah.
It's nothing more satisfying.
All right, final question. You're on your deathbed. You know exactly how much time you have.
Right now?
Right now, you're dying. No, just
Rip,
sometime in the future. Imagine you're on your deathbed. You know exactly how much time you have. You have any and all resources you need available to you. Viewer count doesn't matter. Commercial viability doesn't matter. What do you do for your final stream on Earth?
My final stream on Earth. Ooh. I would want to make something very big and very special with my chat. I would want to create something collectively where it's like kind of like either like a large canvas we all work on, or maybe there's some way to integrate them into music somehow, or make something like that where it's like a sort of a big old memorial of the community.
I love that. Julie, this was so nice. Thank you so much. It's lovely.
You're too good at this.
You. Am I? Oh, man.
Yes. I've never had an interview where I felt more comfortable. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. It's my pleasure. I really, truly I appreciate your candor and your honesty, and also Julie, you're really cool. You're just fucking cool. So thank you for being here.
Don't tell me that. I'm gonna develop a god complex, dude.
And so again, if you all aren't following Julie, go do it. Go follow them on Twitch. Go follow them on all the different socials. So I'll give you the little shout out. You just click the little heart. Go do it. It's really easy. And then here's all the other stuff. And then if you would like to be a guest on Why We Go Live, or if you know someone that would be a great guest for Why We Go Live, you can send an email to whywegolive@gmail.com. Julie, as is tradition, is there someone live right now that you'd like to pass the love to, and we can raid them and tell them you sent us? While Julie finds it, I'm going to type a raid message here.
You're giving me a lot of power here.
You have all the power.
This is
all
terrifying.
you.
Let me see one thing. Let's go to Mr. Greggles, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Would you do me a favor and type their name into Twitch chat if you have Twitch open? So chat, here is the raid message. Copy paste that. We're going to go hang out with Mr. Greggles.
Yeah. He does drum streams usually, but today he's playing Scum, and it looks like fun. And I want to support people who are music streamers not doing music.
Yes, I love that. That's how I feel about WoW streamers. I'm like, anytime I see a World of Warcraft streamer doing something else, I'm like, let's go hang out with them.
Yeah, I want to make sure that they feel support with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again so much. This was so lovely. So yeah, copy the raid message. Thank you all. Self-Harmonize, thank you so much for all the gifted subs. That's very sweet and very generous of you. And thank you again to everybody who has followed and asked good questions. I really appreciate you all. And we'll see you in another couple of weeks. We do Why We Go Live every 2 weeks here on Twitch. So see y'all real soon, okay? All right, love you, bye. See you, bye. Love you, bye. And we're raiding, and it's happening, and we're doing it. And the raid went through, and we're stopping.